On today's episode of The Savvy Marketer, I think there's people out there who run from change or fight against it. I think there's probably other people who tolerate it or grumble under their breath, but they get through it. But with you, it seems like you thrive in it and you maybe run toward it. Would you agree?
I do. I agree 100%. So I am future oriented. My vision is for the future. It makes sense that in all this change that we're having, that I'm just forging ahead and loving every minute of it.
How do you respond to change? Do you try to avoid it? Do you cautiously adapt to it? Or do you absolutely thrive in it? We'll talk to a marketing leader who is thriving in her leadership role because of her ability to rapidly adapt to change and lead others through it. And that makes a great segue to today's marketing moment. Today's marketing moment is about change and innovation. I've noticed that when times are hard, when things aren't working, when it feels like I'm backed into a corner a little bit, change and innovation are automatic. It's a survival mechanism for business leaders at that point. It's innovate or die. But the bigger challenge is to innovate when things are good, when the stuff that you're doing is already working. Now, I know people say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I agree sometimes, but this can be dangerous because I think we get comfortable and we can get lulled to sleep. And that's why I think it's important that we keep looking for opportunities to innovate even when things are good. Now, I'm not talking about erratic change just for the sake of change or needing to be on the bleeding edge or needing to be an early adapter in everything that you do. But I think we can start to look at some of the things that we do as marketing and business leaders as some sort of voodoo. Like, it's working. I don't really know why it's working, but I don't want to touch anything because I might break everything. Maybe we see issues that are happening, but we're afraid to touch them because we don't want to disrupt a thing that is already fairly good. I know I felt that way at times. In fact, I remember 10 years ago, I realized that I had accidentally started a web design company. That Spire, though I intended for it to be a marketing agency, for the first 6 or 7 years, all we were doing for people was websites. Now, we were pretty successful at this. Things were working. We were profitable and things were good, but that wasn't what I was passionate about. And that wasn't the thing that I was trying to do in the first place. I really was most passionate about helping people with their marketing. So there was a point there where I made an unpopular decision to start breaking a lot of things, to start innovating and saying, how can we shift this company from being an accidental web design shop to being an on-purpose marketing agency? It was messy, but looking back, it was absolutely worth it. If you find yourself overlooking opportunities to innovate, take a minute to ask yourself why. Not every change or innovation is the right move, so you may have a really good reason not to press forward. But fear is never a good reason to be held back. And that is your marketing moment. Today on The Savvy Marketer, we'll talk to a marketing leader who I have seen level up repeatedly, constantly, over the past 5+ years that we've been able to work together. She's the director of advertising with Danbury Senior Living, a highly innovative assisted living community with locations across Ohio. Her company has scaled rapidly, and Jamie has played a major role in the success that they've seen over the past 5+ years. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. Glad to be here.
So I was talking about the fast growth that Danbury has experienced, and I was going to start listing it all, but I didn't want to steal your thunder. So just tell me, first of all, how long have you been at Danbury?
About 5.5 years now.
Okay. And how many communities did you have when you started?
I believe there were 8, maybe 9 when I started.
Okay. And how many today?
We currently have 21 in the Danbury portfolio. And then we were recently part of a merger with another company. So company-wide, we're somewhere around 100.
Wow. So there's been a lot of growth at Danbury just in 5 years.
Yeah.
And COVID was in the middle of all that too.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit about your role at Danbury and how it's evolved over that time as the company's grown.
When I first started with Danbury, I was hired as the recruiter/social media specialist. We had 2 other people in the marketing department. One was a marketing coordinator, and then another was the director of business development and marketing. So I started out recruiting social media. Within a couple of years, we saw the need to grow, so we added some more people to our team. And at that point, I was promoted to the manager of digital strategy and recruiting.
Okay.
And then just over a year ago, as we continued to grow, I was put in the position of director of advertising. So I now manage all of our marketing and advertising campaigns for all 21 Danburys.
Okay, good. And that is for not just attracting residents, is that right?
That's correct. I do the advertising for getting staff members as well.
Okay, and what kind of staff members are you guys typically trying to attract to Danbury?
It's usually nurses, LPNs. They're a hot commodity these days. There aren't very many of them, or not enough to fill all of the jobs that are out there. So, we're looking for nurses on a continual basis. And then we also need our care companions. Some are STNAs, some aren't. But then, we do restaurant style dining. So we hire chefs and cooks and servers just like a restaurant would. The difference is that our servers have the same customers every day. They get to know them a little bit better. When somebody's moving into a Danbury, they're moving into their new home. It's not just a place where they're renting an apartment. No. We want it to be their home. So anything we can do to make that transition seamless or easier, we go out of our way to do that. Yeah. And you don't see that everywhere.
Yeah, and I know I feel it when I walk in. And you mentioned that restaurant style dining. I mean, there is just really something special about the experience.
Yeah.
There's a lot of logistics that goes into that. I mean, we have a family member that's in assisted living right now, and I'm just overwhelmed by all the things that would go into running just one location. The idea that you're recruiting people not just to work, you're recruiting people to work there, and you're also marketing to reach people to fill whenever you open a new location. So first of all, how many employees do you need to recruit to staff a single location?
So it's going to vary by location. One, the number of apartments that we have in the building. We have some buildings that have around 100 apartments, and then there are ones that have over 200. So obviously those bigger buildings, we're going to need more staff members. But in addition to that, it could be based on the resident's acuity. If we have a mostly independent resident, they're not going to need nursing care and the care companions. So it's really based on our resident. Again, We're tailoring everything around our residents. So long, short answer is it just depends. We're going to base that off of what our resident needs, which again is part of the Danbury difference.
Yeah, good. And how many residents would fill a typical location?
So we have anything from a studio up to a 2-bedroom, 2-bath in our Danburys. So we have a lot of couples that live with us. So in a typical building that's like 101 apartments, there could be double occupancy in some of those. So I can't say exactly how many, but we could have anywhere, in a building that's 101 apartments, we could have anywhere upwards of 120 maybe.
Yeah.
And that's just a guess.
Yeah.
But I love it when our residents move in and it's a couple and they get to thrive together in the community. It's interesting because sometimes they might not be at the same part of their senior journey. One might need some care and the other might still be completely independent, but they can live together in the Danbury, get the help that they need, and just really thrive.
Yeah. So I just think about, as someone who's in charge of advertising for both recruiting the people that are needed in all these new locations and the residents, there's a lot of responsibility with every location. And you said you've gone from 8 to 21 plus another 100 over that period of time. So,
right. Yeah.
So I think one of the things I'm most impressed with you, Jamie, is how you've adapted to just rapid change. There's things that are constantly evolving. Your business is growing so fast. And I'm excited to talk more about that. I think there's some lessons there for our savvy marketers. And so I want to dig into that more. But first, can you just share a little bit more about you? What do you love to do when you aren't working?
So when I'm not working, I love to spend time with my husband, my daughter. She's turning 12 this weekend.
Cool.
So it's an exciting time with her. So just like to spend time with them. We actually live on a lake, so summertime is my time. Winter, I kind of hibernate,
Yeah.
but in the summer, we love to, just spend time outside and yeah.
Excellent. Good. And let's rewind back before you started at Danbury, 5+ years ago. I understand that you had some entrepreneurial experience before that. Can you tell kind of how you got into that?
Sure. So my daughter was in preschool, and there was a school spirit day coming up, and I went to get her a sweatshirt to wear for school spirit day, and it cost me $35 for a sweatshirt for a 4-year-old, and I was like, this is ridiculous. She's going to grow out of it in a couple of weeks. So I kind of looked into it, and I was like, I could start a business and I can make this stuff. I can make enough money off the business to pay for her $35 sweatshirt that, I'm going to basically be making for free. So I bought all the equipment, got everything set up, taught myself how to do it, and then I marketed it on Facebook. That was the only marketing I did. And it was a pretty successful little business for a while.
Yeah. And was this so were you in another position at that time when you were starting this, or?
I was. I worked for a company out of Maryland who was a distributor of sign and graphics materials.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you were able to kind of leverage some of the experience that you did there to get this other thing started.
Yep. Yeah.
And was this ever like the job? Like
that was always the t-shirt stuff or the apparel line was always my side gig. So I would work days at my other job, which I worked from home. So it was really nice and convenient, but I would finish up my day there, spend some time with my family, and then turn around and if I had any orders, go work on them.
So cool. So how did you go from that season of your life to ending up at Danbury?
So I wasn't looking for another job. I was content where I was. It was a great company to work for, great people. But my sister called me up one day and let me know that she had got a job with Danbury with their home office doing their business development. And she mentioned that they were going to be creating a position for a recruiter and a social media specialist. And they had asked her if she knew of anybody. And so she thought of me because of my experience with my t-shirt business on Facebook.
Isn't that cool how that works?
Yeah. So I'm open to talking to them about it. So I went in and I met a number of the people that worked at the home office. I really hit it off with them. And I knew that it was going to be exciting and it was going to be a challenge because the position didn't exist. So I was really going to be taking it and running with it and making it my own.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up at Danbury. My sister gave me a call, and then a couple months later, there I was.
Excellent. And I imagine the company was already sort of in that rapid scaling mode. Is that true?
They were. So we had a number of communities under construction when I started. So within the first couple of years that I was there, I think we had 5 or 6 open just in that small amount of time.
Can you describe, this was a big transition for you. This was a big career change from the things that you were doing in your job and before. It was with social media still, but in a different space. So how did you feel in your first days, first weeks after starting at Danbury?
Exhilarated. I thrive on change. So, doing a complete 180 and going to a different industry, different job, where my role really wasn't defined. It was a huge challenge, and I took it and ran with it. I loved it. Every day was a new adventure, and it still is like that. With the growth that we've experienced, with the current, with the recent merger, and just marketing in general. That no day is the same as the one before.
Right.
So especially with all the change that's going on, it's an exciting new adventure every day, and I love it.
Yeah. And what would you say over the past 5 years has been the biggest challenge that you've had to face in your industry or in your role?
Hands down, I'd have to say that was COVID.
Oh, sure.
For our industry, senior living, assisted living, our residents were one of the most vulnerable populations. So not only trying to keep them healthy and safe, but also, we're used to being vibrant, active communities, having families in for things. So it was heartbreaking to have to keep people separated. And then at the same time, in my role, I was sent to work from home. So that was a lot harder. I like to be, hands-on with my team, and I like to be in our communities. So during everything being shut down, I didn't get to go out and experience the Danbury difference and see the residents. We tried to avoid unnecessarily going into communities just to keep them safe. So
Sure.
COVID was a huge challenge, as it was for everyone. But yeah.
Yeah. So what big things are on the horizon as you look ahead at Danbury?
So as I mentioned, we were recently part of a merger with the StoryPoint Group. Their portfolio includes StoryPoint, Senior Livings, Leisure Living, Independence Village. So with them and the Danburys, as I mentioned, we're somewhere around 100 communities. So that really just opens us up to be better and just continue to grow. It's exciting to be part of that group of communities so that we can work together and see what works for us that maybe they can take away, or what works for their communities that, we can take away. And I say they and us, but we're really one big team right now.
Yeah.
But they're just different brands, so, and they've operated one way for a long time. We've operated another. So it's been exciting working with the team, seeing what they're doing that maybe I can take away and try to use for my group of communities.
Yeah. Excellent. It seems like a recurring theme for you is how you've just approached a lot of change. You've had a lot of big transitions that you've made professionally, and tackled a lot of things head on. And just the way you approach that really stands out to me. I think there's people out there who run from change or fight against it, to keep everything the way it is. I think there's probably other people who tolerate it or grumble under their breath, but they get through it. And then but with you, it seems like you thrive in it, and you maybe run toward it. Would you agree?
I do. I agree 100%. So we have somebody that works for us. He's our director of leadership and staff development. And I was part of his Leader Academy, and I got a lot of really great insight about myself in that. So I am future oriented. My vision is for the future, how to make things better. And so it makes sense that in all this change that we're having, that I'm just thriving and forging ahead and loving every minute of it.
We've talked about this leadership program before. They're voices. Is that right?
Yeah. So there are 5 leadership voices. There's the pioneer, which is me, creative, connector, nurturer, and guardian. So the nurturer and guardian are present oriented. They are very focused on the here and now. So like your guardian is the person that has the checklist that they have to mark everything off, and everything has to be planned out. And then your nurturer is the champion of people. They want to make sure that everybody is doing good. So those are our present. So those are the people that might struggle with the change more than someone like myself. The pioneer is about strategy and about making things better and looking to the future, figuring out better ways to do things like that.
Yeah.
And then the creative and the connector are also future. So they would thrive in this type of situation as well, where the guardian and the nurture, they can get there.
Yeah.
You just have to give them the full plan up front and get their buy-in first.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would think that by definition, a pioneer is going to be restless staying in the same place. Like they're going to want to keep forging ahead into new territory.
Yeah. Always looking for the next best thing. So they're never satisfied with status quo. Things can always be better. So we just keep looking on how to improve things.
Yeah, good. And so I think that this has probably got some wheels turning with our viewers and listeners. So are there resources that they could access to help them discover their voices as well?
Our Director of Leadership and Staff Development, Dan Huckins, works with a company called Giant Worldwide. They do have a website that you can go on, and you can take the 5 Voices assessment on there. And it really will give you some insight. Some light bulbs may go off because you'll be like, that makes sense why I do that. Things
Cool.
will really align for you.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to include a link in the show notes today if we can get that afterwards. So.
Sure.
Okay. Well, we're about out of time, but before we go, tell folks how they can learn more about Danbury Senior Living.
They can visit our website. It's www.danburyseniorliving.com.
All right. Well, thanks, Jamie, for taking the time to share your story today. And I wish you the best of luck with everything that you're doing as you continue as a pioneer into the new territory that you guys are always stepping into.
Thanks, Jeremy. I was glad to be here.
Thanks for watching today's episode of The Savvy Marketer. If you enjoyed the episode that you watched today, be sure to share it with others who you think would enjoy it as well, and like and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'll include a link in the description where you can access show notes with the 5 Voices resource that Jamie talked on the show today. Every episode of The Savvy Marketer is brought to you by Spire. We're an Ohio-based marketing agency. We're passionate about helping businesses scale and grow. And we can help you sharpen your marketing strategy, get that stuff done, and make it hum. Take your marketing higher with Spire. Thanks for watching.